Hello and welcome, my name is Topher, and to everyone that said I'd lost my marbles, the joke's on you, I bought 1,000 more. I'm going to show you the most important thing that you need to know coming up to the federal election here in Australia. It is all about preferential voting. And if you, like me and millions of other Australians, are absolutely sick to death of the Labor Party, the Liberal Party, the Greens and the Nationals, you consider them all to be worse than useless, then this is the video that will show you what to do about it. I'm going to go through a hypothetical election in a hypothetical federal seat. We're going to talk about the lower house. I'll talk about what that is in a second. We're going to go right through how the preferential voting flow works, how these votes move through, and how we can get some really interesting outcomes in a handful of seats and why that matters. The first thing you need to know is that it is the lower house, known as the House of Representatives, that decides who the Prime Minister is going to be. If the Labor Party have a majority, with support from the Greens of course, in the lower house after the next election, then Anthony Albanese will become the Prime Minister. If the Liberal Party have a majority with the support of the Nationals, of course, then ScoMo, if he's still in power, will become or continue to be the Prime Minister at that point in time. But here's the question for you. What if neither of them have a majority? What if neither the Labour-Greens coalition nor the Liberal-National coalition have an outright majority in the lower house? What if we can steal a few lower house seats? And when I say we, I mean the freedom-friendly minor parties. And I'm not talking about any one specific one. I'm not going to advocate for one over the others in this video. I just want you to know what to do and how to support all of them, so that some of them will get lucky in some seats and can maybe steal that balance of power. What would happen then is, in order for Anthony Albanese or ScoMo to become the Prime Minister, they would have to negotiate with these MPs that have been elected for these freedom-friendly minor parties. Those parties could include One Nation, GAP, UAP, the Liberal Democrats, A1, IMOP, there's a whole bunch of them. And it doesn't matter which one's which. I've got 4 of them in this particular seat, this particular example that I'm going to give you. It doesn't matter which one's which, and in a way it doesn't matter which one wins. We just need to make sure that neither Labor, Greens nor Liberal Nationals have an outright majority in the lower house. Polling indicates that already as much as 30% of voters have decided they are not going to vote for Liberal, Labor, Nationals or Greens. They've already made up their mind they're not going to do that. And in addition to the 30% that are going to vote for somebody else, there's another 10% that are undecided. So if half of them were to go the way of the independents or the freedom-friendly minor parties, then we could be seeing votes as high as 35% for freedom-friendly minor parties. And believe it or not, that's enough to win a lower house seat. Now that might sound crazy because everyone knows a lower house seat, in order to win, you have to get 50% plus 1. You need a majority. You need just over half in order to win that seat. How could 35% add up to 51%? The Australian preferential voting system is how. Let me take you through an example. Here is a hypothetical lower house seat. Contesting the seat, we have the Liberal Party, the Labor Party. We have 4 different unnamed freedom-friendly minor parties. The point of this video is it doesn't matter who they are, just that they are there. And there's lots of them, which many people think is a bad thing. They're splitting the vote. Well, hang on, that would be true in an American presidential election, but it's not true in the Australian system with preferential voting. We'll go through that. We've also got the Greens, of course, and I've thrown in one independent. I'm saying this one's a left-leaning independent over here, whose preferences are mostly going to go to the Greens and Labor. We'll see how all of that plays out. So this is the lie of the land. Liberal, Labor, 4 freedom-friendly minor parties, the Greens, and an independent. What I've got here is the votes allocated according to the first preference. So when you get your sheet, you've got a whole bunch of boxes down the sheet, and you will put a number 1 next to one of those candidates. That's where the votes are right now. They're in the number 1 position. We can see very clearly that this independent here got very few votes. Maybe their mum, business partner, who knows. A handful of people voted for them. They have the lowest number of votes and they are automatically eliminated first. But these votes aren't dead. We don't throw them in the bin. These votes now go to the number 2 on their piece of paper. Now I'm assuming that this particular independent was probably a left-leaning independent, so I'm going to say that 2/3 of their votes get added to the Greens, and the remaining 1/3 go directly to the Labor Party. Now it so happens that we've got these 4 freedom-friendly minor parties here, and these are pretty close on votes. We've got two freedom-friendly minor parties and the Greens all pretty close on votes. And it so happens that the preferences from that independent are just enough to put the Greens ahead of that freedom-friendly minor party. So now that we've sorted out the new order, we do the same thing again. We eliminate the last place. You understand how this works now? So this one here has a whole bunch of votes. Again, it doesn't matter which of the freedom-friendly minor parties that was. It's just, it was one of them. They're now eliminated. And we have a handful of votes from them. Now I've got this marble here that looks a little bit different to the others. It's a different colour and a different size. Now I'm pretending that this is our vote. And we've done the right thing. And we've made sure, and this is the key, we've made sure that we put every single freedom-friendly minor party before we put anyone else on the ballot. So 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on the seat that you're in, it might be 5 and 6. You number all of the freedom-friendly minor parties before you number anybody else. This is our vote here. And it so happened it was in the freedom-friendly minor party that just got eliminated. But remember, that's not the end of the vote for this particular party. So what happens here is our vote goes, it so happens, to the next smallest. We didn't know that at the time. We just voted for the 4 that we liked, or we put them in the order that we liked best. But it so happens it goes to that one, as do a bunch of others. But you know what? Not enough to actually change the order. A few go in there, a few go in here, a few go in here. And here's the crucial thing to understand. There were a few of them that just put their favourite freedom-friendly minor party at the top, and then they just put the Liberals next. And their votes go straight from there into there, and they're gone. For our purposes, from our point of view, they're gone. They're no longer any use to us. This is why it's so important to put all of the freedom-friendly minor parties on the top of the ballot and all of the other parties on the bottom of the ballot to make sure your vote goes all the way through every single freedom-friendly minor party. Now here's what happens next. These guys get eliminated. Our vote, this is this one here, it so happens, ends up in that one. Alright? These people all knew what they were doing. They understood the principle. And they made sure that their vote, doesn't really matter which order, they made sure that their vote went to another freedom-friendly minor party, rather than to the Liberal, Labor or Greens. That's the crucial, or the Nationals, in a seat with the Nationals. That's the crucial point. It so happens now that these guys have picked up enough preferences to swap back with the Greens. Now the Greens are the ones that are on the bottom with only 5 remaining. They are the ones that are going to be eliminated. Overwhelmingly, their preferences are going to flow to the Labor Party because they tend to be on the same side of politics and they tend to be basically a coalition. So I'm just going to pour. There are a small number of votes that might go elsewhere, but by and large, almost all of them are going to end up going to the Labor Party. Now, with the help of the Greens' preferences, all of a sudden, the Labor Party take over first place. Now, with only 4 parties left, we have the Labor Party, we have the Liberal Party, we have 2 remaining freedom-friendly minor parties. Now, it so happens, and I've done this deliberately, these 2 between them add up to 70% of the vote. These 2 between them add up to only 30% of the vote. But let's watch what happens, because 30% of the vote, it turns out, is enough. I'm going to bring these into the middle. 4 left. This one gets eliminated. Again, it doesn't matter which of the freedom-friendly minor parties has just been eliminated, or it doesn't matter which one's left. It could be any one of them. What matters is that all of the votes for all of the freedom-friendly minor parties are collecting and collating into a single freedom-friendly minor party. Now these people, a few of them voted Labor as their next preference, a few of them voted Liberal or vice versa as their next preference, but the overwhelming majority had watched this video and understood how it worked, and they poured their votes. I'm going to say, actually, I got that slightly wrong. I'm going to put a few more over here into the Labor Party. Here's the crucial point. What we have right now is 30% of the vote gathered into a single freedom-friendly minor party. The Liberals in this seat didn't perform especially well, and they've only got 29%, and Labor have the remainder, 41%. That means that these guys go down into 3rd place. And this is the pivotal moment. This is the moment when it really matters. When there are 3 parties left, everyone else has been eliminated, all of their preferences are being distributed down to their 2nd place, 3rd place, 4th place. What matters is that we get a freedom-friendly minor party into 2nd place when there are 3 parties left. And if we can achieve that, then we will probably win that seat. And here's why. The party that just now gets eliminated is the Liberal Party, with only 29% of the vote. Now, if you're a Liberal Party voter, you're a die-hard Liberal Party voter, you're still going to vote for the Liberals after how useless they have been. You're still not put off. You're going to vote for them again, probably because your dad did and your granddad did and whatever else. You're not going to vote Liberal first and then put Labor second on the ballot. Of course not. You're going to put all of the other parties in between. Maybe not the Greens. Maybe the Greens would go on the very bottom and then Labor would be second from the bottom and every other party will be somewhere in between. So they vote number 1 and then they vote number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6 and number 7 to the Greens or whatever it may be. The point is this one here is number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. It's somewhere ahead of this one because this one's on the bottom. And that means that when the preferences from the Liberals in this hypothetical scenario get distributed, the vast majority of them end up going into the freedom-friendly minor party. Why? Because they put these guys higher on the ballot than they would ever put the Labor Party. And this is what happens. And we have a winner. That is how we can get freedom-friendly minor parties to win lower house seats with just 30% of the primary vote going to any. There might be a dozen freedom-friendly minor parties and people look at it and go, it's a disaster, they're splitting the vote. Well, not if they use the preferential voting system correctly. I'll say it again, it doesn't matter to me which of the freedom-friendly minor parties this is. We need all the freedom-friendly minor parties to be working together, to be making peace with each other, not creating division. We need all of the freedom-friendly minor parties to be spreading this same message. Put every single freedom-friendly minor party at the top of the ballot and work your way down. Put the major parties at the bottom of the ballot and work them up so that your vote will pass through every single freedom-friendly minor party before it will go to any of the major parties. Now, I don't think we can win enough lower house seats to form some kind of a government coalition out of these freedom-friendly minor parties. But I do think that we can win enough lower house seats to hold the balance of power. And that means that these candidates and these parties, whoever they turn out to be, it's the luck of the draw in the end, but whoever they turn out to be, they can hold the incoming Prime Minister accountable and make sure that we don't see repeats of the kinds of disastrous mistakes that have been made over the last couple of years and, let's be honest, the last couple of decades. If you want to see things change, you're going to have to do something different to what you've done before. If the definition of insanity is doing what you've done before and expecting a different result, then you'd have to be insane to keep voting the way that you voted before and expect a different result. If you want a different result, as I do and many millions of Australians do, then this is what you need to do. Put all of the freedom-friendly minor parties at the top of your ballot and put the majors last. Liberal, Labor, Nationals, Greens, put them in the bottom 4 spots. Put the other freedom-friendly minor parties in the top spots and you're done. Job done. The Australian preferential voting system will do the rest. And your seat might not be the one that flips, but if everybody does this, along the way, we're going to see in the federal election a handful of lower house seats flip. And if we're lucky, that will mean that they hold the balance of power. The most important thing that you can do right now is to spread this video and make sure that every single person that you know who is in Australia and eligible to vote at the federal election knows how this works and understands the idea, and that they will join you in putting all of the freedom-friendly minor parties first and all of the majors last. If we can get this message out there, then we can make this happen. So help me to do that by sharing this video, commenting, liking. My name's Topher Field. You can follow me on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, and on Twitter. Make sure you do that. You can also find my blog at topherfield.net where you can sign up to my emails. I look forward to speaking to you a lot more between now and the federal election.